stepmom tried to steal my college fund, then got me kicked out after accusing me. I, an 18-year-old male, am in a difficult situation with my stepmom, Megan, 40F, regarding my college fund. I'm starting to question everything. This is a long and complicated situation, so bear with me. My parents divorced when I was 10. It was a messy split that left me feeling lost and alone for a long time. My dad, 45M, remarried Megan when I was 14, and she brought two kids from her previous marriage into our family, Jack, 16M, and Emma, 13F. The transition wasn't easy, and we've never really felt like a cohesive family unit, despite Megan's constant efforts to push the one big happy family narrative. I've always been a good student, maintaining a 3.8 GPA throughout high school. My dream is to attend a prestigious university and study engineering. I participated in the robotics club, where I've won several competitions, and I've volunteered at the local animal shelter for the past 3 years. Dad has always been supportive of my academic goals, at least until recently. A few months ago, as I was starting to apply to colleges, Dad sat me down for a talk. He told me about a substantial college fund he'd been saving for me since I was born. It's enough to cover tuition and living expenses at most top universities. I was thrilled, feeling like my hard work was paying off and my dreams were within reach. We spent hours that night talking about different universities, discussing programs, and planning campus visits. It was one of the best conversations I'd had with Dad in years. The problem started when Megan found out about the college fund. At first, it was subtle. She cornered me in the kitchen one morning after Dad had already left for work. Her tone seemed casual, but there was an edge to her words. She said things like, when I was your age, I worked my way through college, took out loans, worked part-time jobs. It really taught me the value of money. I tried to brush it off, telling her that I was planning to get a part-time job too, to cover extra expenses. But Megan responded, but you don't really need to, do you? Not with all that money just handed to you. From that point on, Megan's comments became more frequent and pointed. She started bringing up stories of self-made individuals at dinner, always with a pointed look in my direction. She'd talk about her friend's son, who's working 3 jobs to pay for his engineering degree, or her cousin, who paid off her student loans in record time and is now a successful entrepreneur. These stories became a regular feature at our dinner table, always accompanied by comments about responsibility and the value of hard work. Dad would nod along, seemingly oblivious to the implication that I was somehow less responsible or hardworking for accepting his help. The worst part is that Megan started to manipulate Dad. I overheard her talking to him about how giving me the money might stop my growth or make me dependent. She kept pushing the idea that I should work my way through college or take out loans like everyone else. One evening, I overheard them talking in their bedroom. Megan was saying, I'm just worried about him, honey. Giving him all that money. Don't you think it might make him lazy? Maybe we should consider reducing the fund or only paying for tuition, but not living expenses. To my horror, Dad said something about how he'd always planned to help me with college, but acknowledged that Megan might have a point about the value of working for things. Since then, Dad started to waver. He began making comments about maybe reducing the fund or only paying for tuition, but not living expenses. It was like he'd forgotten all our previous conversations about my future and all his promises of support. I tried talking to Mom about this, but she and Dad barely communicate anymore. When I explained the situation to her over the phone, she got angry and told me to stand up for myself and not let that woman push me around. Easy for her to say, she doesn't have to live with Megan. While her advice was well-intentioned, it didn't help me navigate the day-to-day tension at home. Last week, things came to a head when I overheard Megan talking to Jack in the kitchen. I was heading to my room when I heard Megan say, don't worry about college, honey. I'm working on getting some of your stepbrother's college fund redirected to your future. It's not fair that he gets such a large sum when you and Emma won't. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Not only was Megan trying to take away my college fund, but she was actively working to give it to her own kids. The injustice of it made me see red. Without thinking, I stormed into the kitchen and confronted her. Megan's eyes widened in surprise. Were you eavesdropping? She asked. I was too angry to care about her accusation. What do you mean you're working on my college fund? That's money Dad's been saving for me since I was born. Megan's expression hardened. I'm simply trying to ensure that all the children in this family are treated fairly, she said. It's not right for you to get such a large sum when Jack and Emma won't have the same opportunity. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But it's not your money to redistribute, I argued. Asterisk, Dad saved that for me long before you were even in the picture. Asterisk, Megan got angry and said, asterisk, watch your tone, young man. You're being incredibly selfish right now. Have you even considered your step-siblings' futures? Asterisk, I felt like I was going crazy. Selfish? For wanting to use the money my dad saved for my education? How does that make me selfish? Megan crossed her arms. Asterisk, a truly responsible adult would understand the importance of fairness in a family. Maybe you should consider community college if you're so worried about money. It would certainly be a more modest, appropriate choice. Asterisk, I was speechless. The audacity of her suggestion left me angry. I looked at Jack, hoping for some support, but he just stared at the floor, clearly uncomfortable. This is insane. I finally managed to say. Asterisk, I'm going to talk to Dad about this. Asterisk, Megan smiled and said, asterisk, go ahead. But remember, your father and I are partners. We make decisions together about what's best for this family. Asterisk, I stormed out of the kitchen, determined to talk to Dad. I needed him to understand what Megan was trying to do. But every time I tried to get him alone, Megan would appear, hovering nearby, steering the conversation, or conveniently interrupting. It felt impossible to get through to him without her interference. The next few days were tense. Megan acted as if nothing had happened, but her smugness was impossible to miss. At dinner, she made comments about the importance of responsibility, money, and not taking handouts, always with a pointed look in my direction. Dad seemed oblivious to the undercurrents of her remarks. He would nod along, occasionally adding his own anecdotes about the value of hard work. It was as if he had completely forgotten our earlier conversations about my future and his promises of support. I felt increasingly isolated. Jack and Emma avoided me, clearly uncomfortable with the situation, but unwilling to go against their mother. I threw myself into my college applications, determined to secure as many scholarships as possible. But the stress was overwhelming, and I couldn't shake the feeling that my dreams of attending a top-tier university were slipping away. One evening, I finally managed to catch Dad alone in his study. I took a deep breath and said, Dad, I need to talk to you about something important. He looked up from his computer, frowning slightly. What is it, son? Megan's been saying things about redistributing the college fund. I began hesitantly. She's even talking about maybe not using it for me at all. I thought we had a plan. Dad sighed deeply, his expression hard to read. Your stepmom has raised some valid points about responsibility and the value of working for things, he said slowly. Maybe we were too quick to offer you the full amount. I stared at him in disbelief. But Dad, you promised, I said, my voice trembling. I've worked so hard, kept my grades up, stayed out of trouble, done everything you've asked of me. He looked uncomfortable, but didn't back down. I know, and we're proud of you. But Megan thinks. Since when does Megan get to decide my future? I interrupted, anger breaking through. She's not my mom. She wasn't there all those years when you were saving this money for me. Dad's expression hardened. Megan is my wife and a part of this family. Her opinion matters. More than your promise to me? I asked, my voice rising in frustration. Before Dad could respond, the study door opened and Megan stepped in. Her smile was cold and calculated. Is everything okay? She asked sweetly. Dad cleared his throat. Everything's fine, he replied. We were just discussing college options. Megan's smile widened. That's wonderful. I was thinking we could look into some more affordable schools this weekend. Maybe ones with good work-study programs. I looked at Dad, silently begging him to say something, to stand up for me. But he just nodded. Defeated, I left the room. The breaking point came a few days later. Tensions had been building for weeks, and I was at my limit. Megan continued making pointed remarks about my entitlement and selfishness. Finally, during another argument in the kitchen, I snapped. I accused her of trying to manipulate Dad and steal my college fund for her own children. Megan's face turned red with anger. You're so ungrateful, she shouted. Do you know how much I've sacrificed for this family? And you've never accepted me or my kids. You've always treated us as outsiders. Because you were trying to take what's mine, I shot back. You've been manipulating Dad, and now you're trying to steal from me. The argument escalated. In the heat of the moment, I called her a gold digger and accused her of only being interested in Dad's money. I even pointed out that she hadn't worked a day since marrying him, despite her constant preaching about the importance of financial independence. That was when Megan dropped the bombshell. Through tears, she turned to Dad and said, I can't live like this anymore. I feel unsafe in my own home. He's been hostile and aggressive toward me for years. Then, she took it even further. And it's not just aggression, she sobbed. He's been making inappropriate advances toward me, cornering me when we're alone, making suggestive comments, even trying to touch me. I was too scared to say anything until now. I was stunned into silence. The accusation was so outrageous, so completely fabricated, that I couldn't even form words to defend myself. I looked at Dad, expecting him to see through the lies. But the moment I saw his face, I knew. He believed her. Go to your room, he said, his voice shaking with anger. We'll talk later. Later that evening, Dad came to my room. His face was grim, and he couldn't even look me in the eye. I can't have someone who would act this way living under my roof, he said. You have until the end of the week to find somewhere else to stay. I tried to plead with him, to make him see reason, but he wouldn't listen. He just kept repeating how disappointed he was and how he never thought I could do something like this. Before leaving, he handed me an envelope with some cash and said, "This should help you get started." I packed my belongings in a daze, still unable to believe what was happening. Jack and Emma avoided me entirely, no doubt having been told some version of Megan's lies. I tried one last time to talk to Dad, but Megan was always there, playing the part of the traumatized victim. I reached out to my mom, explaining the situation through tears. She was furious and wanted to confront Dad and Megan immediately, but I begged her not to. I was afraid it would make things worse. A small part of me still hoped Dad would come to his senses on his own. Fortunately, my friend Mike came through for me. When I told him what had happened, he immediately offered me his guest room. His parents were out of town for a few months, so I could stay without imposing too much. Living at Mike's house has been a huge relief, but I can't help feeling like a burden. I've been trying to contribute where I can, cooking meals, doing chores, but it's not the same as having my own place. Emotionally, I've been swinging between anger and despair. How could my dad believe such a horrible lie? How could he throw away our relationship, all the years of trust, because of Megan's word alone? 2 weeks after I moved out, I got a call from my grandparents. At first, I hesitated to answer. I was terrified that they had heard Megan's lies and would look at me the same way Dad did, with disgust and disappointment. But when I answered, my grandmother's voice was warm and concerned. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Your dad called us with some disturbing accusations." My heart sank. Megan's lies had spread beyond Dad. I asked my grandmother what exactly Dad had told them. Her response confirmed my worst fears. Dad had painted me as some kind of predator,